Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Supergirl. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I thought it was interesting how the Kelly storyline and the other robbery that Kara and John were investigating ended up being how those stories ended up conjoining together, because Kelly's story initially starts with her checking in kind of as a social worker, checking in on a kid who his name is Joey Davis. I initially heard, I had to rewind it because I thought I heard Joey Diaz, which immediately my brain makes me think of, Joey Coco Diaz, which that's a terrible Joey Diaz impression, but that's where my mind immediately was like, no, it's Joey Davis. But essentially, this lady runs a home for alien kids, and Joey's brother Orlando is in prison, and he's kind of lashing out a little bit. He's normally a good kid, but he's lashing out a little bit. Well, it turns out when Kelly talks to him, he opens up because she talks about her brother. It's like, she's like, yeah, my brother's older than me. He's always, out doing stuff. He's always kind of done crazy stuff. And it's just like, she's like, I still worry about him from time to time. And so that actually got Joey opening up, because he actually is worried about his brother too, because his brother has dark circles under his eyes, and it's like that's a byproduct of their species when they use their power too much, and if they use it too much, it can kill him. But his brother went to jail robbing a store trying to get money so that they could be together. Like, he's been taking care of them since their parents are gone. So Kelly making the promise to Joey to do everything he can in his power to find out about Orlando, and using Kara's connections with the prison, because this is about that second chance program that basically allows people, prisons are supposed to be about reform, which I think in certain countries they lean more into that. I think I could be mistaken. I think in Sweden it's kind of known for its prisons being more in that reformation type of thing. America doesn't really have that reputation. It's supposed to be what that's supposed to be about, reformation, but the system doesn't really work out that way, because it is a thing of, it is very hard to get a job if you got a prison record, especially a felony on your records. It's super hard to get a job, so it's like you're most likely to be back in the system, just because it's what other life, life can you build for yourself? What kind of income can you make? That felon, you doing something criminal might be the only means of making money. It's just, it's a very nasty, vicious cycle that it's hard to kind of break out of it, and the system's kind of flawed in that regard. So this second chance program is supposed to be kind of a good thing, but it turns out the robberies that Kara and John were investigating, because at first it's this alien species and this alien species, why are they working together? And it's you immediately kind of figured out these prisoners are being forced to commit crimes. Not the first time that's happened in a TV show. There's been a few TV shows that have kind of used that storyline of private prison using its prisoners to commit crimes. What TV show was I'm thinking? There's some TV show I'm thinking of where it's they were getting their prisoners to commit hits. I don't remember what show that was now. Was that in? I was about to say, that wasn't in Batwoman, was it? I don't think it was. I don't remember now. There was some a TV show I was watching, and because it's fairly fresh enough in my mind where it's they were using prisoners to commit hits. I just don't remember what that was. Was it Batwoman? I don't think it was. God, I'm gonna have to remember it later on, because I can't think of it off the top of my head. But nevertheless, so these criminals, in particular, Orlando, Joey's brother, is a part of this as well. Obviously, he doesn't want to get mixed up in this, especially because it's a thing of we didn't sign up to hurt people either. But it's you're going to do the job, because they're stealing materials that could eventually be turned into a dirty bomb. But it turns out the person behind it is the warden. Am I not surprised? I mean, because that's the thing when you have a corrupt prison thing. I mean, that's a whole commentary and thing in itself, but it's when there's something shady going on in the prison, that was it's probably the warden, especially because Kara wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt because he was such a good person when she first interviewed him, but now we'd like to find out he's behind all this. But William says something interesting. It's some people, when they get great power, it brings out the best in them, but other people get corrupted by it. So we don't know about this, because it turns out it's a gang that ends up infiltrating and being a part of this. So that's kind of at the heart of this. Like, what they were going to do with the dirty bomb, we never really got to find out. But I guess that, because that wasn't like completely resolved, I think that gang, like, this is just a fraction of that gang stopped. So I'm assuming like that might be a greater threat kind of a little bit later on in the season, or just kind of like a background threat, maybe not a mainstay enemy or something like that. But that's the thing of like, Kara believed in this program, and now for it to have been like corrupted like this, used for such evil, these prisoners being used, especially because on the news they're being accused of like kidnapping the guardsman, even though he's in on it. He's pulling the strings behind the whole operation. But thanks to William, Kara was able to kind of figure out like, right, that the warden was the one behind everything, and together her and John were able to save the prisoners, like, obviously without too much issue, because like, right, it's just regular humans guarding them, so they were able to take them down pretty easily. But then there were the prisoners themselves, in particular Orlando, being like, right, like, you want to help us, like, we believed that before. It's like, for him, it's like the system failed him, and it's like, right, he actually believed the second chance program, that maybe it put him on the right path and help, but it was like, it ended up being another lie. So why should trust in a system that's failed people like me, failed people like them? And Kara's like, I understand, I'm an alien too, you know, and I've seen firsthand like kind of the injustices of how like the system has failed. But the fact of the matter is, trust in me to make this right, because if you do this, you're going to be running for the rest of your life, and you know, and that's not just going to affect you, that's going to affect your brother Joey too. At the end of the day, you and your brother have been through some hardships, but you know, trust in me to do the right thing. And so they all surrender. And they end up all getting some leniency. And obviously William ends up interviewing Supergirl about it. And that ends up being an interesting conversation, and interesting development in its own right, because Kara is not too keen on Andrea being so obsessed with the Super Friends. I love, like, they were playing games, and like obviously Kelly and Alex were crushing it. But and like hard cut to Andrea being like, yeah, what do they do for fun? Like, they chillax, they do what all other people. Because it's actually interesting, because you could make the argument like every other superhero, like we've gotten to see them have fun. Like Team Arrow was the only one we never really got to see too often of them having fun. In particular Oliver, because Oliver wasn't really the more fun type. He was just kind of like very dedicated to his cause and his mission. So you didn't get to see him kind of cut back and relax too often. But the other shows, you get to see them kind of have fun, just kind of live normal lives to a certain extent. So it's interesting, you know, Andrea's so obsessed with that. I even love that Kara's just like, yeah, that's not the most important thing. And Andrea was like, what'd you say? Even William looking like, whoa, I can't believe you just said that out loud. She almost caught herself like, I didn't mean to say that out loud. But for her, it's like what Catco represents. It's like, no, we give hard-hitting news. We tell important news. But Andrea is all about the numbers, because she's basically saying like, we need views and stuff like that, which that in itself can be, you can look at it as a commentary on just, well, for one, that's just the way the world is now. Like that's how people consume news on websites and stuff like that, and that's how people get paid on like news sites and stuff like that, by the hits and the clicks on their articles and stuff like that. So it is a commentary on just like, right, you want to get more attention, like that's why the news can get sensationalized the way it is. That which Kara's like, I'm not all about that. I want hard-hitting facts. I want to be able to tell these great stories. I want the truth to be what matters. But then like they get caught up in like, right, us writing stories about the Super Friends for whatever that matters the most, when it shouldn't. What should matter are these type of stories. But then William points out the good point of like, right, it is kind of that thing of like, by telling these stories, like of focusing on the Super, at first I was about to say, right, by having these Super Friends like articles and stuff like that, you draw more attention to Catco, and that people are more likely to get the stories. But I guess it's like more so than anything, it's like people are more likely to hear something coming out of Supergirl's mouth. So it's like, at the very least, like, yes, we might be sensationalizing this, but like, oh, let's get the you know, superheroes involved, and you know, that whole like that becomes the main focus. But at the very least, if people are a lot more likely to listen if it's coming from Supergirl, then it's kind of a win-win. It all works out in the end. I thought that was such, and I think Kara kind of had to change her perspective on it too. Like, she's still not too okay with it, that's still Andrea's focus. But William probably pointing that out to her, like, right, if more people are willing to listen because it's coming from Supergirl, then you rather people be able to come to the choice of like, right, being hit with the cold hard facts will be enough to change your mind. But it is a thing of like, people don't like it, you know, because the whole argument of like, oh, celebrities, you're like, like, because celebrities will get that thing of like, yo, they'll make a point and people like, just shut up, you're a celebrity, just shut up and stay in your own lane. Like, not everyone feels like that, but that is an opinion some people have. So I think the same thing could kind of apply in this case of like, why should like a celebrity's opinion matter more than you getting the news and information yourself? Like, why should it have to come from a celebrity's mouth to for you to listen? To be fair, we are talking about celebrities, but we're also talking about superheroes. So that's a little bit different. We're talking straight up Supergirl and the Super Friends. So it's like hearing stuff coming out of Supergirl's mouth, you're more likely like, honestly, it's Supergirl. Like, this is more than just a celebrity thing. She's a full-blown superhero. She saved the world and the universe and the multiverse. So like, you know, there's a little bit more to that. So it's similar, but I think, you know, it's different in its own right because, I mean, we are talking about the DC. This is the equivalency in the DC universe to like, you know, to the real world in a, you know, celebrity conversation. So I just think that's kind of really interesting. And luckily things did work out, you know, because Kelly was, you know, hesitant to, she was kind of feeling like she felt like she was already kind of backsliding when they said she was failing in some shape or form because, you know, it's like, right, if I had gone through the proper authorities, maybe things would be different. But it's like, right, because you handle things because you looked into it the way someone else wouldn't have. No one else would have taken the time to like be so dedicated to figuring out what's going on like Kelly did. So yeah, but you used your connections, which I love it because it's like, Kelly's like, are you sure this is going to work? Carl's like, I think, are you forgetting I'm Supergirl's like, right, you know, and it's just like she was able to get behind a keyboard and find out, you know, that at that time Orlando was like already being shipped off to work or whatever. But Kelly ends up getting the lady who runs that home taken away later on because she goes in and hacks the security footage because the lady's like, oh, I've been part of this system for so long. Like, if you want to call people, basically, like, no one's got enough time. Like, the system's so, like, clogged up and everything that they're not going to have time to watch surveillance footage for your issues because she was kind of rough with the kids. Like, for example, Joey, he was kind of like having an episode, but rather than calming him down with the right tactics, what was her immediate reaction? To punish him, to like dampen his powers and even straight up hurt him in the process. But for her, it's like, right, I got a house full of like 10 alien kids, like I have to do what's necessary, like to, you know, it's like, you may not like my methods, but this is how things are kind of run. I've been kind of a part of this, not necessarily the alien side of things, but kind of fostering program like this for a long time. But Kelly was able to kind of expose her, and at the end of it, Orlando and Joey get to be reunited because Orlando got leniency. He actually got let go because of it. So him and his brother finally get to be together again and kind of have an opportunity for a fresh start, which I thought was kind of nice. And then that little girl, what's her name, Esmelda, or like, no, I think it was like Ismay, was kind of like, oh, you're the one that did it. And she's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. She's like, it's okay. She's like, you know, because of you, like, this place has a guardian angel now. And it's you. I was like, for one, that little girl, too cute, too adorable. I was like, dude, like, because earlier she made that, like, it's like, oh, that person stole from me. And she was like making such a sound argument about like, no, like, this is kind of me getting justice because that person stole from me. And this is a whole conversation about the rules about why things should. I was like, for part of me, I was like, you're going to adopt, you and Alex are going to adopt that little girl, right? Like, we don't know what her family, I'd assume, like, she doesn't really have any family. I'm like, you're going to adopt that little girl, right? But I guess, because I was wondering, like, who was going to start looking after that facility. Like, they're going to get someone who is going to look after them, like, someone who isn't just going to be handling it with, like, an open fist or an open palm. They'll be a more, you know, extended hand and willing to talk and help them through whatever's going on. Listen to them. Because, see what Kelly was able to accomplish without just like, oh, like punishing. She would immediately was like, no, she listened and she talked to him. So I thought that was pretty dope. And at the end, Alex, surprisingly, because Kelly's decided she wants to become the new guardian, fill her brother's shoes, and she feels like she can help people the most that way. And so Alex figured, like, after I saw you take up the shield during Crisis, I figured like this was only a matter of time. So I talked to Jimmy, and he sent this over. It's like, who would be better? No one would be a better fit for this. I mean, it's so like, obviously in counting Crisis as well as like the fear nightmare that she was in that she talked about with Alex earlier this episode, about how, because she, it was her fear of like, right, I'm the non-trained, non-superpowered person on this team, so she feels like she will always fail in that regard. But it's like powers are not like who she is. Doesn't stop her, and it didn't stop her brother from doing good. So for her to take up the mantle now, and it's like, oh, I love you, and she's like, we'll see how you feel about that once your training starts. So that's going to be pretty dope to have Kelly donning that mantle. But aside from all of that, there is the Nia side of things. Interestingly enough, while she's having her dream about her mom, who's there? The Nixley. I was like, why is Nixley there? So apparently coming, because she isn't at full power, when she came back through the portal from the Phantom Zone to this world, she ended up phasing in, like she couldn't fully phase into that world. So she's stuck in the dream world, and she needs Nia's help. So in the dream, she's like, hey, let's make a deal. I'll help you. And I'm like, because she knows like, oh, you're a fifth dimensional imp. Like, I don't know if you can't be trusted. She's like, really? Like, should your issues be held against your entire species? So they'll lump all imps together by like the prejudice that you've heard against fifth dimensional beings, which you're like, and I love that it's like, yeah, you're sure as hell not mentioning the fact is that you were locked up in the Phantom Zone, and that you, what you tried to do to Zor-El as well as Kara. It's like, you're not letting that information dive out. So I wonder, does she know that Nia is connected to Kara? She might not know that. She might have just been like, right, you're the one being I can get in contact with because I'm stuck in this dream realm, and I need a being like you to help me out. But you can tell like her dream on some level, either like subconscious or the dream world, maybe it's her mom on some level, like, I can't fully reach out to you, but I am trying to give you warning signs, because that bird that's with her mom as she's walking away keeps attacking Nixley, because it's like, I know what you really are. So obviously it brings up the conversation of the wise basically figure things out for their, like, how to figure things out on your own. Only a fool kind of follows the words of someone else. So basically find the answers within yourself, because the thing is, Nia's so distrusting and so confused about what's going on that like she doesn't have her mom to guide her. She's so lost that she thinks she's not willing. It's almost like in some level she feels like she's letting her failures kind of like dictate so much that she's like, right, I can't figure this out. I'll never figure this out without my mom. I need my mom. So she's going against her better judgment, because she knows not to trust Nixley, because even the birds, because she's like, oh, my mom always believed in these birds because they were always kind of a sign of truth. But then she's like, oh, like this thing is a birds of prey, which I'm like, huh, like I get it. That's the general name for birds like that. But I'm still kind of like, you can't say birds of prey in this universe. It has a completely different meaning. But the fact is that it's like, this is the bird that was with your mom. That should have been a sign. But it's like Nixley's promise of like, right, once I come back, like I want to be reunited with my family, which I'm like, we know it's like, oh, you want to be reunited with your family? Oh, because you want to go back to your world so you can conquer it, take back what was taken from you. Because it was like, if I remember correctly, once again, it was a while in between like the first chunk of the season and this chunk, because of the long break it was on so that Superman and Lois could finish. It was her dad that stripped over her powers and stuff like that. So she's most likely going to go back to her world, kill her dad, but she needs to be fully charged. So, who's to say like she won't cause some chaos in their realm first? But Nia's so about trying to see her mom again. I understand. Once again, it's that thing of she lost the chance to connect with her mom, just being able to see, especially because like everyone around her has all these like moments, like that moment Kara was able to find her mom again after all these years, and now her dad too. It's like, yay. And you have Lena all figuring out stuff about her biological mom, that it just makes you feel like everyone else is getting answers except for me. I'm kind of stuck alone, kind of like, because also like no one else is realizing and recognizing that she's kind of drowning in all of that. And there's only so much they can do, because you can't fill that hole in her heart, And so the thing is, she's going to end up making a massive mistake. She ends up destroying that bird because she's just so desperate to see her mom again that she's not listening. She's not paying attention to the signs in front of her. It's like, yeah, like on some level, that was your mom sending you a warning. Because I think it's her mom also saying like, you don't need me. You think you're chaining yourself down. You're binding yourself by thinking you need me. That's the only thing holding you back. Not realizing the strength, the power, all of it is there. Like, you have to figure it out on your own. You have to come to the truth yourself. Because if you rely on following other people's words, like, it won't mean as much. The journey is yours to take. Like, my journey, like, things weren't played out the way they were supposed to. You have to figure things out on your own. I know it's hard and I know it's rough. Maybe when she meets her mom again, if Nixley keeps up her end of the bargain, but she's probably going to keep up her end of the bargain while also causing some chaos, because the moment she helps out, Kara will be like, wait, that's Nixley, you can't trust her, but it'll probably be too late. So, I mean, fifth dimensional beings have the power to rewrite reality. So the moment Nixley gets free, like, she could probably rewrite things, and maybe we might be kind of a Legends of Tomorrow, Sisters of Fate type of thing could happen. But Nia, being the dreamer that she is, she could probably, like, not be affected by it while everyone else does. So maybe her mom could be alive in that 24 hours. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but that potentially could be what happens. And it's like her and her mom trying to, like, stop Nixley from doing what she's doing. That could be a potential storyline. I don't know. I'm interested to kind of see it. It's kind of a shame because, like I said, you can tell Nia's almost there, but like, right, I was hoping she'd make the right choice, but it's like, right, she has to stumble here so that she can grow. Like, this has to be a learning lesson for her to, kind of realize that, like I said, I think it's her mom on some level trying not to reach out to her. She was trying to send her signs of, like, on some level of, like, whether it's her subconscious, whether it actually is her mom. She's letting Nixley kind of get in her head. Nixley is the crafty person that she are. Once again, fifth dimensional imps and everything. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where the next episode takes us with all of this, in particular, that side of things. But really, that's all I want to talk about. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.